If I don't come back, I'm either dead or in jail or sucked up by a tornado in a gunfight at a gas station. That ending, guys. What the hell, man? We
Right?
talk a lot about, wow, I didn't see that coming, or oh, that was shocking, but shit, I dare anyone to have predicted the ending of this.
Yeah,
I,
it was completely unexpected. It's
well,
just
I was texting Brian like watching it, and the first half, I wasn't mad, but I was far less entertained, uh, and really confused as to where it was going. When we watch the other episodes, there's still an intrigue as to what's going to happen, but I'm still interested. At this point, like halfway through the episode, I wasn't even interested where they were going. I didn't care. And then all of a sudden, shit hit the fan, and it got real crazy real fast.
well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was very curious about it, but I really like those slow burns, but I feel that they knew it would be a little slow for some people because we have the whole commentary with the billboard, which I thought was meta commentary on that fact itself, that they wanted to be sort of a slow episode that kind of lingers on certain scenes. The scene where he's talking to the guys who's putting up the billboard, and he's like, what is it? What's gonna happen? He's like, what? The future is what? He's like, well, if you wait, you'll find out. That whole back and forth. Yeah, I
Yes.
feel it was about the pace of the episode itself.
I mean, I can understand. I went into it. You guys had already seen it before me, so y'all had texted me that it was slow. So I went in knowing that and prepared for that. But I understand what you're saying, Spencer, because and this is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're discussing episode number 9 of season 4 of Fargo, titled East West. If you've not hit that sub button, please do hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, and check out our Undoing review and our Mandalorian review. But the momentum from episodes 7 and 8, I mean, those that was edge of your seat entertainment. You didn't know what was going to happen next. It was crazy, and that cliffhanger for last week's episode 8, had us thinking, damn, how do you keep this momentum up, going into these last 3 episodes? And the answer was, you don't. You don't. You slow it down. You take some time to dig into specifically Satchel and Rabbi. And we've seen this war between these two families, but these are the characters that are affected. The mothers last week, Cannon and Smutney. They were discussing about basically how their children are the ones having to suffer, and they're paying the price for this war of essentially the families. This episode was giving us a story of these two characters. One of them, it appears, is dead. The other, wandering off, who knows to where. But yeah, I definitely understand, Spencer, that there's that whole idea of we were waiting for that big, continuation, and they decided to go this direction instead.
And not only that, but they teased you with what's actually happening back with the main group with the talk on the radio. I don't know if either of you noticed that.
Yes.
Them talking about what's going a shootout at a meatpacking plant.
Yeah, and I think that it's not foreshadowing because it is foreshadowing because we haven't seen it yet. But it was just, to me, this was, and we've talked about it watching other series where it's not a throwaway episode, because I felt like this was one where they know that the Emmys are going to come up and they're just trying to artistically do something. Artistically, it was great. It was, like you said, Larry, the whole commentary on the billboard kind of alluding to what the whole episode is. It artistically, it was great, but it bothered me because we had 2 back-to-back episodes, like Brian said, where you're just anticipating that next thing, and then this. And I still liked it. There was parts where I was like, they could have done this in half an episode instead of a full episode. But after the last 2 weeks, if this would have been before those last 2 episodes, I would have been okay with it. But to have this lead up after what just happened in episode 8. I didn't like the order in which this episode aired.
You know what it really reminded me of? It felt like Noah Hawley was, he co-wrote this, and he writes these episodes. He did not direct this though, but he co-wrote it. But it felt like a chapter from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs,
Yes.
which is a Coen. You know what I mean? Where it's just a series of little short films. Some of them really short, 10, 15 minutes, some a little longer in the 20, 30-minute range. But just little shorts, and this felt like that. This felt like him stretching his artistic, sensibilities and going for it in a very Coen-esque style. All the stuff at the hotel, the East West Hotel, is 100% Coen, like that style. And yeah, this was very much reminding me of that film. Did you guys see that film?
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs? Nope,
Yeah.
didn't see
You
it.
did not. Oh, you got.
Oh, so you should have known by now. Of course I didn't see it.
Definitely, it's worth it. We'll talk after. But yeah, if anyone listening, if you're a Coen fan, it's definitely worth your time. There's a bunch of memes. Actually, there's one in particular from that you've probably seen a lot.
Oh yeah, the one with Franco.
Yeah. But yeah, it was basically like a short film. That's what. Yeah. A series of short films. So the gas station. There's not a whole lot to say other than, did anybody, because I didn't read any reviews or anything for this episode. So the guy that was sent to hunt and kill Calameda from Mr. Cannon, Chris Rock, he was we knew he was an ex-boxer. He's one of his top guys. How the hell did Calameda get the jump on him? Like, you see what happens at the beginning. It looks like he's positioned really well, but then by the end, a lot of shit went down that we didn't see. So I guess we'll never truly know how that exchange went, but Calameda got the best of him, even though because of the tornado, it didn't matter. They were all fucked anyways. But, yeah, I don't know. And who was the guy that he had in the trunk? I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing that ties into like another season of Fargo, or whether that was just like while he was hunting Calmeda, if that was just like someone randomly he picked up that was kind of in the know of his whereabouts when he was tracking him down. It's I didn't see any real hints, at least not within this season, as to who that person was. But I will say this much, given the few scenes we saw of him, I would have loved to have seen as much as his character in this season as we saw of Calmeda, because he seems pretty badass.
Well, and so many of the characters during this era have hats on and jackets and all these accoutrements. But so he may have been a character that we would recognize had he had not been black and white, had it been, he had this kind of hat on or whatever. But with the artistic direction it went in, it even took me a second to remember who the Cannon guy was until, I saw the hat and I saw him get out. And and that was the thing. I couldn't tell until, a couple of minutes in, and then like when he stared at the camera and I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah,
I remember who he was too.
Well, yeah, and part of the reason I want more of that character is just because of how weird he was. Also,
Yes.
just like when he offers to paint the gas station in order to park his car in the back and get out and everything, and he pulls the guy out of the trunk and makes him paint, and he's just such an odd character.
Well, they're all so odd, yeah. Like, and that's the thing I enjoy. Like, we're talking about the hotel, the East West thing. The two sisters owning it and splitting it, and based on a questionnaire, they put you at one of their parts of the hotel. It's weird shit, but it is entertaining, and it definitely keeps you thinking, okay, what the hell is going to happen next, or what's the next conversation going to be? And of course, if you pay attention, there's lots of little subtle things woven into the story. Specifically, the Goldilocks story, for instance, telling the original story of it, and the idea of it never truly had an ending, and basically representing Satchel sort of wandering, and especially when you look at the ending of the episode.
I I loved when they were painting the side of the gas station, how shittily that one guy was doing.
Yeah.
He was just painting a giant circle. Like, he wasn't painting any board individually. My wife called it. She was like, "Why the fuck is he painting a pumpkin? Like, it looked like a giant pumpkin." Because he just, I've painted a lot of things. We've painted a lot of different furniture, remodeled some stuff, and to watch him paint. And I'm by no means a professional painter by any stretch of the imagination, but watching him just paint circles on a slatted item, I was just dying. It was so stupid.
Was pretty funny.
It was very. I'm probably gonna bring it up several times, but it was very the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Like it was that kind of storytelling. And the hotel scene, like that, everything that happened there, you could have put in that movie. Now film, all those shorts are in a western, so it's a little further back in time, but not that far.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where it gives you the idea that the guy's never painted before. It's but he's doing it under duress. So he's just like, whatever, I'll paint if it keeps me alive a few more hours.
And it did. But yeah, what else? It's not a lot to talk about. That's the only thing that sucks about an episode like this, because as far as the overarching storyline, we didn't have any of the typical characters. Obviously, we had the little story with Rabbi and the trying to get his money that he had stashed away. So he had always had a plan. He had, several $1,000s in a wall. And then there was the whole idea of, it's foolish to think that things will stay the same. That little line he gives about, okay, the wall was torn down. Things have changed, new ownership. The brothers, stole the money and all that. But like I said, throughout the story, there were several little messages and little things woven in.
I thought the craziest part was that cop was getting ready to shoot some like 10-year-old boy for just being in a car.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, like and it would have been different too, like had he been in the driver's seat. And to me, it would have been like, okay, maybe this kid did steal this car. But the kid's sitting in the passenger seat with a dog. And he's like,
well, I'm gonna say, given time and place, likely didn't really care. He just probably wanted any excuse he could. Especially given the way we've seen a lot of the people, the way we saw a lot of the people in this town. Just kind of treated him, including
the cop said it bluntly.
Yeah.
Keep him out of sight.
Well, and we watched Lovecraft Country. There's a lot of shows that we've watched set in this time frame. So to me, giving logistically where this town was,
sundown town.
Yeah, and then even the two sisters, like at the hotel, one of them, didn't even want him sitting at the table. So I got it. I'm not going to pretend like I understand, but I mean, I could, see what they were trying to do. But what I didn't get was like the pulling the gun. Like he was getting ready to pull a gun on this kid, not like a full grown adult threat. Like
well, he wasn't necessarily looking for a threat or cared if there was one.
He was looking to exert force. Like it was just crazy to me to think, I'm a big guy. There's not a whole lot of 10-year-olds who I couldn't just like, if I wanted to remove from a vehicle, that I couldn't just do. But, I wouldn't have to pull a gun on them to be like, all right, get out of the car.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't fear. He was just looking for a reason to shoot. Looking for enough excuse to do so.
Well, yeah. Like I said, when we watched Lovecraft Country, that was a theme. It was just like, all right, well, if you're here at nighttime, this is what's going to happen.
Right? And it's the sort of thing, given
of frames.
I think you're breaking up a little bit, but
possibility.
But yeah, I just think, given the area, like we were saying, it was just he was looking for any excuse he could have to pull his gun. Just given the person he was and the time he is and the town he's in. He felt he could get away with it unless there was potentially someone that would push back. And when he saw that there wasn't one, he was planning to shoot him until Rabbi showed up. And even then, I was wondering when Rabbi showed up whether there'd be any sort of hatred towards Rabbi just because he's Irish, and that may
I
have
was
turned.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, you better kill that accent.
yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't sure how that was all going to play out, even with the fact that the brothers. I was like, are they going to run out, or are they just scared, or even did he shoot them? Like you would have heard the gunshot, so I guess not.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they just were afraid to come out.
Well, I will say we learned something later in the episode, towards the end, to skip ahead. Well, at least to tie into this scene. Satchel may not have been as defenseless in that scene as we thought. It could have very well gone differently because I was thinking, I'm like, oh, he's got Rabbi's gun. I'm like, no, Rabbi's got Rabbi's gun because Rabbi's firing it at Calmeda. I'm like, oh, so Satchel's been packing heat this whole time.
And we also learned that he's been teaching him self-defense and teaching him about the knife, explaining how to use a knife.
I don't think that gun was his. He didn't have a gun until after Rabbi, because remember that one brother had a gun when he went to take the money back from the two brothers at that shop.
So you think it's one of the brothers? Oh, I see.
Yeah, okay. So he had two guns. So when he was in the cop car, he didn't have a gun on him. But when he left, I think he took that brother's gun that Rabbi had taken during that scene.
That's a good observation. I didn't even think about that. That would be where he got the second gun from. Makes sense. Otherwise we would have seen it potentially in earlier scenes.
But he did have a knife. So
yes. But good Lord, would he have had to been quick with that knife at that range? It's and speaking of Satchel, I think that's one of the big questions of the episode too. It's like, where is he going? Is he going back to town, or is he going off on his own adventure? Just to live his life differently, or maybe even follow up on some of what he heard, at the hotel they were at from the guys. Maybe he's going to Texas to try and make some money. What do y'all? Yeah, become an oil. What do y'all think? Is he heading back to town to go back home, or?
It's a long walk.
It is.
It's one of those things where if he never appears again, it works. Or if he does, it's fine too. There's only 2 episodes left now. There was, Rabbi's whole thing he told him when he took him was, there'll be a point where if you want to go back, you can, but you don't have to. His idea was getting him away. And it looks, based on episode 8, that shit is about to get real between both families. I don't know that there'll be many people left. You know what I mean? I don't even know if he'll have shit to go back to be completely honest. So,
even if he had to walk, imagine, say no one picks him up or gives him a ride. If it takes him 10 days to walk back home, everything's going to be done in 10 days. All the people who are going to die are already going to be dead. So he may show up at the end of the last episode and come back to nothing.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, that he may show up and just see all the like you said, there's nothing there, or there's all the corpses, or there's a funeral going on, and he may show up, see this, and then just keep walking. That could happen. And I especially think that may happen because I haven't seen previous seasons, but I think I mentioned earlier, I heard from a friend of ours that he believes Satchel is a character in a previous season of Fargo.
That very well could be possible. We know there are characters that have appeared this season that have been in other seasons, and the show definitely exists within the same universe, and that sort of thing happens. So very possible. I've not seen past seasons, so I can't comment on it, but I do intend on going back and watching them. If anybody in the comments agrees with that or has a theory, definitely put it in the comments below. It'll be interesting to read. Um, I had said weeks and weeks ago that I thought Rabbi would probably die, and it would be something, him doing a good thing that would lead to his death, and maybe even Cannon would kill him, even though he was helping him. I was sort of right. I think if he truly is dead, which I think he is, I mean, he could survive. People have survived being sucked into a tornado, but it was Satchel's birthday, and he was trying to go get him a treat, and did not go well, obviously. So he was doing a nice thing, and it did lead to his probable death.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of figured that it was the fact that deep down Rabbi is a good person to some degree that was going to get him killed. That
I thought the whole it being his birthday thing, that it was, to me, that whole episode was kind of comical. There was parts of it where you're just like, oh no. And then when that happened, like, to me, that's when the mood shifted. It went from being kind of like comical and like social satire to damn. Other than the cop scene, that wasn't like funny. That was a little bit, hitting a little too close to home as far as current era stuff. But
And also on the cop scene, we talk about how Rabbi has always been a survivor, and the story he came up with. You look at this, racist, just bitter asshole cop who was going to kill a child just because of the color of his skin, and Rabbi is able to cause that cop to have a little bit of sympathy all of a sudden. He tells this story about, his father dying in the war and him taking care of him. And the cop, you could tell looked a little compassionate for a very brief second. And it just shows that Rabbi is a survivor, and he's able to get into a situation outside, well, except for a tornado. But when it comes to dealing with human beings, he's really good at doing what he needs to do.
Well, yeah, because he looked at the guy and he read him and he said, this guy probably, to some degree, he's probably thinking a lot of people like him do. He's like, this guy probably thinks he's a patriot. So he's like, let me play off that.
Yes.
I mean, if Rabbi just had a belt, he could have Bill Paxtoned it and like tied himself down and could have He's going around not wearing a belt, and he gets sucked into tornadoes.
Which is the question, which is a question I think that you two asked before we started filming. It's like, do you absolutely think this is the end of Rabbi? That there's no chance that he survived this?
I'm about 80% that he's dead, but I would not be shocked if he did survive. Just people have survived being sucked into tornadoes. That's happened. And this show, I mean, shit.
It's a pretty crazy show. Yeah.
It's a crazy show. But I did have a sense, especially at the last shots of Satchel walking out, that there was some closure to this whole storyline, and I don't know that it'll come up again. And everyone who's aware of Satchel's being alive, those players are dead. You know what I mean? So, I don't see a point for him to come back. Is basically what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and as the sign said, which was what Satchel's looking at as he's leaving too. The future is now. So it kind of represents a new, like you said, a fresh start for him now that everybody that knows about his old life is dead, and he can kind of make of his life what he wants, within reason. I mean, he doesn't have too much to his name, but he can choose to, not be involved in any of any of the issues with his father or this crime war, or have people just actively gunning for him because of just gangster stuff.
Yeah, he can literally start over.
Yeah.
I mean, at his age, I don't know that he would have the necessary tools to basically know how to do that. But at this point, he could learn anything. Their kids are still very spongy. They still absorb and learn a lot of stuff. And clearly, he's not much different than Rabbi. He's a survivor, too. The fact that he just picked up the dog, grabbed a gun, and the rest of the money was like, all right, well, time to go.
Right.
And started trekking along. So I think that it is very possible that he's just as much a survivor, but I don't know exactly how. I don't know what he's going to do. And, you said that somebody mentioned that he is in a different season as well. It makes me want to watch that season. You know how they always talk about like the machete order of Star Wars, watch it in this order. I wonder if after this season there's going to be like a machete order of Fargo.
Well, yeah, and that friend, I asked them about this as well, and I was like, well, should I go to the previous season that he's potentially in, or should I start from the beginning? And basically, what they told me is watch season 1, 2, then work your way back to where you are. They were like, it jumps around a little, but because each season is, of course, a different time period, but it interconnects. And from what they told me, you're going to want to start with season 1. So I'm going to try to do that and just like eat through season 1 and and make it to whichever season it is that Satchel appears in, if it's him, and just kind of build my own opinion on the matter from there, and see if the evidence kind of stacks up for myself. Like, but like you said, I'm curious now. I'm like, well, if he's in there, and if we know that the characters from Fargo that Lloyd called in are from a different season of Fargo, is that connected in any way, or like and I kind of want to see the season that they're in now. Like, what's their story, and why is there some sort of loyalty or agreement that they've come to work together? Like, is there a history there? Is Loy in that season to some degree?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think they explain how he had a connection with him. We know he was selling them the weapons, but what initially, like, he knows them. He's like, yeah, get the Fargo boys. Like, he knows that crew.
Yeah, when he had to think outside of his own group, who he would trust with this sort of thing, with starting a war with his enemies, his first thought was the guys in Fargo.
And he said like early in the season.
Yeah,
like the first episode or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that makes me wonder. It's like, okay, then why them? Is there a connection there? Has that been shown in a past season, or will it be shown in a previous season? Not a previous, but a future season. I would say same thing, right?
I have I've worked in my notes. I have nothing else major to say other than I also thought that the billboard thing, he's like, the future is now, and the guy is mad because he's like, well, now I'm unemployed. And I even, what you were saying, Larry, that it's sort of a commentary sort of on the episode, but also and somewhat on Satchel.
The show itself, yeah.
But even on the actor that plays Rabbi, because you're unemployed too, because your role is finished.
Well, it's also seems to be to me a comment on just writing the show in general. It's like it's like, you want me to rush these things out? Well, as soon as I get this done, I'm out of a job.
Let me see. Yeah, that's all I have. Anything else you guys want to talk about this episode? We can also, real quick, talk about, like I said, there's no setup for next week, really, other than we know Calamado and is never coming back.
We don't know how far the tornado threw him. They may have threw him right back to Kansas City, and
the episode starts with Calamado landing on his feet,
just like dusting jacket off.
So I 2 episodes left. We had a lot of theories after episode 8 as far as where we thought things might be going. I agree 100 million % now that all roads lead to the funeral, the service for Satchel Cannon. Oh yeah, that to me is where everything is going. Now, what's going to happen, I don't know, but clearly that is where things are headed.
Well, in this episode, kind of giving his character closure, real closure, as opposed to just, not knowing what happened to him. This kind of tied that up. So them having a funeral for him now, you're not going to be curious as to what happened to the character. You already know now what happened to him. So they can do the funeral now without having those unanswered questions, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess that is the importance of this episode. Whether
Yes.
anyone liked them going from stepping away from the main plot or not. We those loose ends had to be tied up. Otherwise, it would just be odd. And during the finale, that'd be our question: like, well, what the hell happened to Satchel and Rabbi? Like,
I
and why would you leave Calmeda of all people out of the finale when we were imagining it's going to be this massive gunfight?
I wish they would have just done this episode right after Rabbi grabbed it. Kind of do the little intro with Josto playing up the whole, well, I guess he's dead. Like, basically coming up with his story when he finds Antoon dead. And then I wish they would have went directly into this episode like they just did. And then played like we got episode 8. Like, I wish they would have just put them in a different order. I didn't hate this episode. I just didn't like it after they built up all this tension to have this episode happen.
You think this episode should have happened last week, and last week's episode should have happened this week?
Yes.
Maybe?
I think we're going to run into this same situation with, and to plug our other review series we do, The Mandalorian. This week, they set up Ahsoka Tano. They set up a big payoff. If you don't watch The Mandalorian, you don't know what we're talking about. I'll keep it brief. We're pretty much done with the review, so thanks for listening. But they set up that setup, but it's clear now through the previews that she will not be in next week's episode. That next week's episode is going to be sort of a side story, and then we'll get her, I believe, in episode 5. So it's one of those things where the audience, you set up the audience, they're excited, and then they got to end up waiting 2 weeks. And like last week, episode 8 ended, and we're like, oh shit, where's it? What's going to happen? And then it's like, nope, we're going to take a detour.
Well, to touch on that, and also this show itself, I will say the difference is with The Mandalorian, or at least I felt before I even knew whether or not it'd be a side story. Well, before they announced it, it sets it up. It sets it up for you to see that, oh, you're probably going to have a side story. Like this episode wasn't telegraphed. So I could see that bothering some people to some degree. I enjoyed it myself. The shift in tone was fun for me, but I could see how it wouldn't be for some people because it, unlike that episode, the next week's episode, The Mandalorian, this wasn't exactly telegraphed. You may have thought, okay, we're gonna be at the funeral home next episode. Was potentially the feeling you got.
Yes, that was definitely the feeling I got. And like I said, I didn't hate the episode. I hated the, I guess, placement of it, because the beginning of the episode, they show the guy basically hunting Calmeda. So I'm like, okay, we're going to get the side story as what happened with those characters. And then when I saw Rabbi, I was like, oh, okay, now we're going to see what's happening with these guys. So how it started, I was not upset with it. But then it was the tonal shift from this, edge of your seat kind of, not action movie, but suspense, because I wouldn't say thriller, because it's not quite that, but it shifted away from that and went into even more Coen-esque than it was in the previous episodes. And by the end of it, there's this big shootout, people getting sucked up by tornadoes. It went like off the rails real quick, and it just caught me off guard. And like I said, I wouldn't have hated it had we not had the big cliffhanger episode previous to that one.
Well, yeah, and I kind of see what you're saying too, because my first thought was when we started with when you start with Calmeda and when you start with the character that Loy sent after Calmeda, your assumption is like, okay, this episode is going to be a lot like watching The Terminator. At least that's the feeling I had initially going into it. I was like, okay, this is going to be an action-packed one. I don't know why it's black and white, but this is going to be action-packed. That said, still enjoyed it, but like you said, maybe it would have been better to place this before the previous episode.
Yeah, you could have. Had I not known what it was going to be before I watched, I don't know how I would have felt. But like I said, you guys sort of prepared me, and so I went into it with that mindset, and was okay with the episode. Like I said, I enjoyed it. But yeah, you could have placed this in a different spot. I think it was, as far as pacing, when you look at the season as a whole, it's 7 and 8. I mean, are so over the top. And then to hit this, you maybe you should have put this in between those. But I don't know. I don't. We'll definitely know after the next 2 episodes as far as the overarching pacing of the season.
Yeah, and for this season to go 1 episode longer than all their other seasons, I don't know. I don't. Like I said, I liked the episode, but it just didn't feel to tie into the rest of it. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it just yet.
So you say
Like,
this is
how it
actually their
plays in-
longest season so far?
It's an episode. It's 11. Yeah, I believe they're 10.
Yeah, they're all 10 except for this season, and that's what I'm saying. Like when you made the Buster Scruggs reference, that couldn't have been more perfect. Like,
Yeah, the way it opened, dude. It even zoomed in on the book and everything. Like, I'm like, holy shit, this is straight up Buster Scruggs.
the whole season has been everything's tied into the next episode. It's tied, and then this one felt not like a throwaway episode because it's important. It ties up some storylines, but the way it played out was it. You said it was somebody else directed it. It felt like a different movie, a different show. It was just really weird. And like I said, once I see the show as a whole, like this may make more sense. It may, like we said, we may see Satchel walking in on the town that's basically destroyed. We just saw a tornado hit. So he saw a tornado destroy all this area. As he's walking down this side road, he's going to see where the tornado hit. There's going to be trees everywhere. So by the time he gets back to Kansas City, he may see, the street all shot to shit, like tore up. So it may be kind of like foreshadowing or, so it may make sense. But as of right now, I don't know that it will. And that's my issue, I think.
Yeah. All right. that's how Spencer feels. We are doing a new show tomorrow. Big Sky. I forgot what it was called. So definitely look for that review. Anything else, guys? We wrap this up.
I think I beat the horse pretty.
All right. So yeah, we'll see y'all next time. 2 more episodes of Fargo. Like I said, Big Sky, we're putting that review up tomorrow, and The Undoing on Sunday night, and The Mandalorian this weekend. All right. We will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.